Welcome to Adu Globe. Discover new ideas, learn exciting things, and be amazed every day. Welcome back. Today we dive deep into one of the most critical questions of our time, Ukraine's urgent call for security guarantees. Without them, the risk of new Russian aggression looms large. The stakes, nothing less than the balance of peace in Europe. This isn't just Ukraine's fight. The whole world is on edge. In Washington, leaders debate strategy. In London and Paris, promises are made. The decisions taken now could shape global security for years. And to be clear, this video is based only on verified, trusted reports. No propaganda, no bias. Only facts that matter, presented to you with honesty. But here's the question for you. If you were Ukraine, who would you rely on more for protection? The United States, or Europe? Think about it, and let us know in the comments below. The roots of today's crisis go back to 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea, a move that shocked the world and reshaped global security debates. Since then, Ukraine has faced continuous pressure, border tensions, and hybrid warfare that only grew worse year after year. By 2022, these tensions escalated into a full-scale invasion, drawing international attention and changing Europe's security landscape forever. Did you know that this was the largest military conflict in Europe since World War II? Ukraine today is caught between rebuilding its cities and protecting its borders. Millions have been displaced, infrastructure has been heavily damaged, and the constant threat of missile strikes looms over daily life. For Ukrainians, security isn't just about military strength. It's about survival, stability, and the hope of living without fear. What would it mean for a nation to rebuild when the shadow of war still hangs over its future? President Volodymyr Zelensky has consistently appealed to the international community, asking for security guarantees that would prevent further Russian aggression. His message is simple: without binding commitments, Ukraine remains vulnerable. These guarantees could take many forms, from defense treaties to advanced air defense systems. The real question is, will the world step up to ensure that Ukraine's sovereignty is protected for generations to come? The debate is not only about Ukraine. It is about the credibility of international security frameworks. If one nation's sovereignty can be violated without strong consequences, what does that mean for global peace? Will European nations like the UK and France take the lead where others hesitate, or will Ukraine be left to defend itself once again? The future of this war may decide the balance of global power for decades. On August 18, 2025, the White House hosted a high-level security meeting. Officials gathered to discuss how far the U.S. should go in supporting Ukraine without triggering a larger conflict. The message was clear: America's role had to balance responsibility with restraint. Did you know that similar debates were held during the Cold War, where leaders weighed every step to avoid escalation? The very next day, former President Donald Trump made a striking statement: no American boots on the ground. His words echoed through media outlets worldwide, signaling a red line. For Washington, the focus was clear: support Ukraine, but avoid direct military involvement. But the question remains: can a conflict of this scale really be managed from a distance? Behind the scenes, discussions turned toward air support. Advanced systems like Patriot missiles and drones could provide Ukraine with a protective shield. Pentagon officials hinted at the possibility of expanding defensive aid without committing ground troops. This strategy raises a question: would high-tech defense be enough to deter a determined adversary? According to Politico and Reuters, Pentagon officials emphasized that America's role would remain minimal. Their goal: to avoid direct escalation while still signaling support. This carefully measured stance highlights the delicate balance U.S. policymakers face. Too much involvement risks escalation, too little risks credibility. Which path will history remember? In 2025, Europe found itself carrying a heavier burden in the Ukraine conflict. As the U.S. signaled a limited role, European capitals realized the responsibility was shifting toward them. History reminds us that Europe has often been forced to act when transatlantic support seemed uncertain. But the real question is, will European nations step forward with unity, or with hesitation? Among the first to respond were the United Kingdom and France. Both nations prepared their ground forces, expanded training missions, and accelerated weapons supply to Ukraine. Analysts noted that this signaled Europe's readiness to take the lead. But here's something to think about. Can two nations alone carry the weight of a continent's defense? On August 21, 2025, European and American defense officials met to discuss joint security options. The meeting highlighted the urgency of building a coordinated response. Behind closed doors, strategies ranged from stronger air defenses to troop deployments. Audiences often wonder, do such meetings create real solutions, or just more diplomatic paperwork? According to a Reuters report, defense planners estimated that tens of thousands of European troops might be needed for credible deterrence. This figure raised eyebrows across the continent. Could Europe truly muster such a force without fracturing politically? The numbers may sound large, but history shows Europe has mobilized even greater armies in the past. What do you think? Is Europe ready to do it again? Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeatedly warned, without solid security guarantees, Russia may strike again. His words are not empty. They echo through every international summit and press briefing. Quoted by CNN, BBC, and Reuters, his message is clear: Ukraine cannot stand alone forever. But here's the thought: what exactly counts as a guarantee in today's unpredictable world? Zelensky's statements are not confined to Kyiv. They dominate global media headlines, from Washington to London, from Paris to Berlin. Each time he speaks, the world listens, but does it truly respond? International audiences may wonder, is the world hearing his plea, or just recording his words for tomorrow's news cycle? Behind every speech lies the voice of millions of Ukrainians. Citizens look to Zelensky not only for leadership but also for reassurance that their sacrifices will not be in vain. Families separated by war, children growing up in shelters, soldiers on the front lines, all of them expect answers. And here's the question for us: can political promises match the raw hopes of ordinary people? Zelensky's stand is more than just political rhetoric. It's a test of global credibility. If guarantees are delayed or weakened, the risk of another Russian escalation remains. But if the promises are real, Ukraine may finally glimpse lasting security. So, what do you think? Will history remember this as a turning point, or as another unfulfilled promise? The war in Ukraine has exposed a deep challenge for NATO and the European Union. Both institutions face the urgent task of protecting their eastern members while avoiding direct confrontation with Russia. Leaders in Brussels discuss troop deployments, defense budgets, and collective security. But here's the question: how united can NATO remain when every member faces different risks and pressures? Washington's refusal to place boots on the ground has shifted the burden. While the US offers intelligence, weapons, and air defenses, it is Europe that must take on the heavier role. For allies in Poland, the Baltic states, and Romania, this raises fears. Will American leadership weaken just when Europe needs it most? In Moscow, strategists closely monitor every Western debate. Analysts suggest Russia could exploit delays in NATO decisions, probing weaknesses along the eastern border. Cyberattacks, disinformation campaigns, or military pressure, all remain tools in the Kremlin's playbook. So here's the thought: is the West preparing for yesterday's threats, while Russia invents new ones? The stakes are far greater than Ukraine's borders. Eastern Europe's security directly shapes NATO's credibility. If Russia gains ground, it could embolden other powers to challenge the existing world order. But if NATO and the EU stand firm, it may mark a new era of collective defense. And this leads us to ask, is the world moving toward stability, or entering a more dangerous, unpredictable age? The United States has made its position clear: no American boots will step onto Ukrainian soil. Instead, Washington focuses on air defense, intelligence, and financial support. This marks a turning point. For decades, U.S. troops led the front lines of global conflicts. But now, the world sees a different strategy. So here's a question: is America redefining its role in global security, or simply stepping back? With Washington stepping back, the responsibility shifts heavily onto Europe. Nations like Britain, France, Poland, and Germany are already preparing more troops, training missions, and equipment. For the European Union, this is not just about Ukraine, it's about proving that Europe can defend itself when the stakes are highest. But here's what audiences wonder. Can Europe truly replace America's military leadership? For Ukraine, the message is bittersweet. On one hand, Western aid continues. On the other, lasting security guarantees now depend more on Europe than the US. President Zelensky's appeals echo through world capitals. Without firm guarantees, the war may not end. And the world asks, will Europe rise to meet Ukraine's hopes, or struggle under the weight of responsibility? This conflict is far from over. America's retreat from ground involvement, Europe's growing role, and Ukraine's urgent pleas set the stage for a new chapter in global security. The situation remains ongoing, and in the coming days, new developments are expected.